Hey, what's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to another episode of Outside the Trenches. I am BJ Kissel, and this is a live show, if you haven't figured that out. So we appreciate you for joining us here on this Thursday night. This is a brand new thing that we are going to be doing here at KC Sports Network. We had one earlier this week on Monday night at 6:30 with the KC Laboratory going live. And now every Thursday night at 6:30, you will get Outside the Trenches with myself and these two gentlemen, Nick Leckey, former K-State All-American and Super Bowl champion with the New Orleans Saints, and Tucker Franklin, our fearless podcast producer at KC Sports Network. And so we appreciate, again, everybody for joining us live. Feel free, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're on Twitter or Periscope or Facebook, wherever you're watching, shoot us questions. Let us know what you're thinking. We've got a fun show, and Field Yates from ESPN Fantasy Football is going to join us here in a little bit. But before we get into all of that good stuff and we break down the Chiefs-Browns Week 1 game, it is almost finally here. Before we get it all to that, I want to welcome in our guys. Start with you, Nick. How goes it, man?
And you're right. You're right, BJ. We are one step closer to September 20th when Jack Stack moves into my backyard about freaking time on the Axis Nexus of Western Kansas City. It is 435 and Lenexa. So it's 435 and 87th Street. And I cannot wait for it to go in. It's perfect. I drive by it all the time. It's got the sign up, and I'm going to get some Crown Prime beef ribs, and I'm going to ask him for a big bowl of the hickory pit beans, and that's going to be my meal. And I'm going to dip the meat into the beans like a caveman, and it'll be glorious. September 20th, mark your calendars.
You cannot go wrong. And I know Jack Stack has been waiting for that day for a very, very long time for that location to open up. It's in a perfect spot. You see it. Anybody driving on 435 on that side of town drives right past it with 3 and 2 right down the field. I don't have a feeling that they're going to have too much trouble being busy over there. Another guy doesn't have much trouble being busy lately. Tucker Franklin.
Kind of a big week, isn't it?
It is a big week.
I'm going good. I can't wait for that Jack Stack to open. I've been on that keto grind, so I'm just going to eat all the meat that they have. I was actually down at the plaza, and I went to the Apple store, and I could smell Jack Stack. And I wanted to go there for lunch, and I was just going to go in there and say, give me all the meat. And I would just eat every meat. It's like that scene in Parks and Rec where Kent Swanson, that's funny. Ron Swanson says, give me all your bacon and eggs. That's essentially what I do at every restaurant now, is give me all your meat. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't see anything wrong with that at all. No, I think that's the way you got to do it too. To be slim for what, next swimsuit season? Because it's parka season coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be painting your body at Chiefs games.
We got to thank everybody that watched the video that we put out on social media of Tucker Franklin and the Tommy Townsend, the 35-yard punt for the Tommy Townsend jersey. For anyone who's watching who didn't see it, Tucker cleared it pretty easily. Had at least 7 yards.
Tommy. I have an update from Tommy. Yes, he said.
Oh yes,
please share. He said, "Let's go, ha ha ha." Yes, great job, man. I love that. Sorry, I'm just seeing this. I'm not a big Twitter person, lol. That's awesome though. I'm glad you won the jersey because I was gonna have to buy you one if you didn't.
Oh,
so
you would have got a game used one. Damn.
No, maybe I shouldn't have came up with it. Maybe that's the deal.
That's on you. Yeah, I was looking. I had this big spot waiting for it, so now I got to fill it with something else. Damn it.
All right. And like we have talked about before with this particular show, this one is live. So if you have questions, please let us know what those questions are. But before we have Field Yates, who's going to join us here in just about 10 minutes, I do want to get some thoughts on this upcoming game, guys, because we've been talking about it for months. You talk about the Chiefs offensive line, all the different storylines. Give me one player, and don't tell me Patrick Mahomes, he's off limits, but give me one player who you're in particular really excited to watch, or you're really invested in this game on Sunday to seeing how they perform.
Man, I'll go first, and I'm just going to say Niang. It's his kind of his second year in the league. You know, he took last year off for COVID and to rest that hip after he had to get that surgery his senior year. And so I think that Niang, and then he's going to be tested by Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney if he plays. Yeah. And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to say, okay, we're going to go after you, Lucas. We're going to see what you got, see what you're all about. And then I'll be curious to see if the enemy and Andy have to give him tight end chip help have to use the running backs for chip help, or that you can say, hey, listen, we want to see what you're made of week one. Maybe not the first series, but maybe the second series. Say, okay, you know what? Maybe we got a 2-minute drive to end the first half. Let's see if you can go one-on-one versus these two formidable top 5 defensive end for sure in Myles Garrett, and then Jadeveon Clowney is always trouble for any tackle.
For sure. I mean,
Tucker,
that
what do you
guy's
think?
a stud. I think that I'm going to be most looking forward to how Ben Neiman plays. Craig Stout brought this up on the KC Lab, and I thought it was a really good point. Like it or not, Ben Neiman's going to be out there just because of the situation with Willie Gay. Nick Bolton really young, so they're probably not going to throw him out there as the dime linebacker. So we'll see how all that plays out, but I think Ben Neiman is really the guy I'm watching heavily.
Yeah, and one guy that I haven't heard a lot about because it just seems, like he became an afterthought throughout this season, but we saw it at times during training camp, and we've seen it when push comes to shove. Guys like, and I'm talking about Demarcus Robinson, and these are the guys that he's got a good rapport with Patrick Mahomes, and that we saw it during training camp. These are the things that I, overanalyze and look into, are some of those broken plays where they're scrambling, that Patrick Mahomes and Demarcus Robinson, for whatever reason, just seem to be on a better page when things break down, of seeing it the same way. And not that we don't want to overanalyze the McCole Hardman, Patrick Mahomes. Did they get together in the offseason and they throw? Do they see it the same way? Everybody's talked about that. I've brushed it off saying, they're going to be fine. But you can't take away the fact that Demarcus Robinson has been in this offense for a while, and at times has been that guy during some of those broken plays that has stepped up and made some big third down catches. And he is a guy that this is a huge season for him. Sammy Watkins leaves. Everybody's wondering who's going to be the guy that steps up, and nobody's really threw DeMarcus's name out there, but it shouldn't shock anyone if he's the one out there making some big time receptions on third down because of how much attention Tyreek and Travis Kelce are going to get. I see Demarcus Robinson making some big key catches in this game, or at least having the opportunity to make some big key catches in this game. Again, for all the reasons we talk about, of his ability when the play breaks down to know where to go, and where Patrick Mahomes knows he's going to be. You're going up against Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Malik McDowell is making plays up front. That front is going to be disruptive. And if they're going to be disruptive, we know Patrick Mahomes can get away from it. And that's when you have those broken plays, and you have to follow those rules so they know where to go and where Patrick Mahomes knows they're going and all that. So Demarcus Robinson's my guy. Nick, give me another storyline, something that you're looking forward to watching. We're just going to keep going around in circle until Field Yates is ready to go.
Well, I think something that you kind of hit upon with Demarcus Robinson is you see coming over from Baltimore, Sammy Watkins talking about how he was that decoy man, how he was that prop man, how he was setting it up. And I always love when players feel like they're kind of jilted by teams and they sort of let their truths sail, or kind of tell it like it is. So that's why I'm always curious to see whenever I hear him speaking over Baltimore about his time in Kansas City. And we're going to see who's that guy who's going to step up and say, hey, who's going to be that decoy? Who's going to get Tyreek open? Who's going to get Travis open? And sometimes you have to, on a team, especially with guys who are going to be, first ballot Hall of Famers, that you got to have a role to play. And I want to see, is it going to be Pringle? Is it going to be D-Rob? Is it going to be McCole? Who's going to be that setup man? Who's going to do that job and relish in that position for this offense to flourish?
Yeah. Another guy I'm looking forward to, and I think is almost a same answer as saying Patrick Mahomes at this point, is Travis Kelce. I mean, that dude had a historic year as a tight end last year. I can't wait to see him embarrass safeties, big body linebackers, and just do that little half spin that he does when he catches the ball. And it's almost like a dream shake, he like catches it and goes one way and the other. So it's a move that he probably taught at the old tight end U. They had that thing going on. Tim Tebow sadly didn't get invited, but he didn't even get invited to an NFL team after the first round of cuts. But
Tucker.
Yeah, that was a little harsh. I like Tim Tebow too, so I don't know why I did that. So
I like that.
You don't like him. Tim Tebow.
You don't like him. You don't like him. Anybody eats a bowl full of guac at an autograph signing for protein is just too dedicated for me.
That's a stretch.
Here, BJ.
I'm going to switch to the other side of the ball. We can end up going through every position group here because we're nerds and we care about this stuff, and we're going to break down the entire Chiefs roster. But we talk about the Chiefs offensive line, talked about that so much, but the cornerbacks, that was the group during the preseason for me that I really had an eye on. And I went on record saying I thought they were going to bring in a veteran for the longest time because there were a lot of young guys in that room and felt like they needed some veteran, one of those Josh Norman, Richard Sherman, or maybe not a Marquesque name. I don't know if that's a word, name like that. And a guy that's played at a high level before. Yeah. But then you saw the way that Mike Hughes, and we know what L'Jarius needs, a blossoming star. He was kind of already pegged as like he's going to be whatever he's going to become. He's got that locked down. But a guy like DeAndre Baker and Mike Hughes, Rashad Fenton, we know Travarius Ward was going to be out there, but Mike Hughes and DeAndre Baker really stood out to me in the preseason as guys that wouldn't just you'd feel comfortable with if they got a shot, but looked like they could really add something to the defense, particularly with their physicality. And you're going up against, we're going to talk about it every week, but you go up against Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have to score points. If Baker Mayfield wants to be seen in that top 5, top 10 quarterback type way, which he played like last year, if we're giving him all the credit, he put up at a fantastic season. He's got to come up and make big time plays and put up 30, 35 points on the road in a game like this, which means guys like DeAndre Baker, Mike Hughes, Travarius Ward, L'Jarius Sneed are going to get chances to make plays on the ball. And hopefully Tyron Mathieu can play. We don't know how that's going to play itself out with the COVID situation and his deal of not practicing. But the cornerbacks are something I'm going to watch because they're going to get a chance to make a play on the ball because they're going to have to score.
I think that in lieu of, we've always loved Ward for his physical play as a cornerback, which is, like we say, a buy one, get one free, right? And so we're going to be tested. I think this is probably one of my favorite running back duos in the league is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And you want to talk about two ferocious Mack trucks who run with authority is both those guys. And just that 1-2 punch of them and combined with this, Cleveland offensive line that's top 5. I mean, they got some studs. They've assembled a really good crew of offensive linemen. So they're going to get tested. So we're going to see, how physical this back 4, back 5 can get. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Tucker, with Willie Gay not playing, he's that primary run guy. So Hitch is going to have a big time step up. And then, Neiman, Bolton, see who gets in the mix. And then this entire front 4 from Kansas City is going to get tested as well. So it's really going to be a trench battle with an air show over top with both these squads. So I don't know why the hell this ain't that premier game, to be honest with you guys. I mean, this is the more I look at both these teams. I mean, these are going to be the teams that this could be an AFC Championship sort of match right now that we're seeing.
And I'm jealous with the 11 a.m. parking lots being open. You don't get a lot of 3:25 kickoffs at Arrowhead. Like you don't. You got to get it there at 7:00 in the morning if you're going to tailgate all day. Back in like 2013, when I was out there with my bottle of Patron and like my straw, for everybody that knew me as the degenerate before I started working there, I had some tweets I had to delete, guys. Okay, I'm just being honest. Sure. But yeah, I think you get out there at 11 o'clock, you get the prime of the day. I haven't looked at the weather, but I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. And I put out on Twitter earlier today that we had a special announcement that we were going to put on this show. And guys, I feel like it's a better time than any. Tucker, I think you know a little bit about this. Nick, I think you actually are hearing this for the first time. But sorry, my phone is ringing. Ken Swanson is trying to call. It's gotta love the live show.
Shouldn't he know we're live? I think
kidding.
He should know that.
Like, is there a problem going on? I feel like Tucker, you'd be the one telling me.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing that I do want to say with the special announcement is that we have a new partner. We have added our 10th partner at KC Sports Network, and that is no other than Tickets for Less.
Yes.
They're hooking us up, and they're going to give us an opportunity to have different discount codes throughout the season. You go to Tickets for Less, you want to buy Chiefs tickets, you put in KCSN21 and you will have a discount. It will be the best discount you can find anywhere. It will always be that. It does change a little bit depending upon the time. So around 10%, sometimes it could be a little bit more depending upon the game, but they are going to be sponsors. You're going to hear us talking about Tickets for Less, but every Friday, they are going to be the title sponsor of our game preview article that's got all the cool breakdowns that we do at KC Sports Network with Craig Stout, Ken Swanson, Matt Lane, Tucker, myself, everybody who's involved on the writing side. That Friday article that comes out, we're making free for everybody, and there will always be a link in there to get you the best discount you can through Tickets for Less if you want to go to a Chiefs game. So we'll be able to hook you up there, and then we'll be able to give tickets away during the season. We've got some other autographed memorabilia we'll be able to get out. So really excited to work with Tickets for Less. I've known a couple of guys over there for a long time, so excited to work with them in some capacity.
That's huge. BJ, where do I go to buy the Kansas State Wildcats national championship game? Tickets for Less?
Ooh, you're going to go to Tickets for Less. And if you would like to start a K-State Substack, you can do that, Nick. You can start writing about the Cats.
I think I can manage that. That'd be a lot of fun for sure. Yeah, they definitely look good.
I would subscribe.
Yes, it'd be a lot of fun for sure. So Tucker, what's something from a special teams perspective? Has Tommy told you anything about what he's looking to do on Sunday, or is he planning on not even kicking or punting at all because his offense is going to be so dynamic? And
I can't imagine that Tommy anticipates playing a whole lot because Patrick Mahomes is just going to score all the touchdowns, I think, in the world. So that's kind of his plan. I think that's the Chiefs' plan. A good day for him is not having to punt.
It's happened. It's happened with the Andy Reid Mahomes era. It really has happened.
All right. And we're going to bring him in now because we are joined by none other than former Kansas City resident and current fantasy football expert from ESPN, Field Yates. Tell the story, Field. I know you don't have a lot of time. I'll tell the story about how good of a dude you are. As soon as you're done, I'll sing your praises. But Field Yates of ESPN, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Sorry for the confusion here. It's been one of those nights, and BJ, you know how this stuff goes, right? I mean, you guys know this happens, right? It's like every time you think you have your schedule sized up, you don't. So duty was thrust on me just a few weeks ago. Chiefs, not too many things I enjoy more than talking about the great Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, we're just going to steal a few minutes of your time, but I know the questions that people want to know, obviously, about the Chiefs and your perspective as somebody who covers the entire National Football League. Not that Chiefs fans would get out over their skis and think a little too highly of themselves and how good they are right now, as much as we've said, hey, enjoy this, enjoy the relevance, enjoy being good every year. It's always nice to get an outside perspective from somebody. And I know there'll be a little bit of fantasy slant there, but just from a 50,000-foot view, Field, what are your thoughts on where the Chiefs are at right now, what they did this offseason, and what kind of season fans can expect, and what to look for, some of those checkpoints to make sure they're on the right track?
Third straight year I've been picking the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I've been right, I guess, 1 to 2 so far. And I don't know that's going to change much over the next decade or so with Patrick Mahomes under center, but they addressed their biggest need in a significant way. And we talked all about the big money acquisitions along the offensive line, Orlando Brown and Joe Thuney specifically. But it sounds like they may have landed themselves a steal in Trey Smith as well, a guy who medically had some issues during college that dropped his stock a little bit, but big, powerful guard. And all of a sudden this Chiefs team that I didn't think the offensive line was bad when it was healthy last year. Mitch Schwartz and Eric Fisher were darn good players for a long time. Super Bowl winners and Pro Bowl or all pro level players, but it's a different type of offensive line. A lot more movement up front, I think you can suspect. And not that Patrick isn't mobile and not that Patrick can't make something out of nothing, but when your quarterback is coming off of toe surgery and when you're thinking about the long term of his future, his long-term future, I should say, then any chance you have to invest in the offensive line is going to usually pay off. So I think the Chiefs' biggest, most obvious weakness coming into the preseason, or coming into the season, I should say, was solved in a major way. We'll see what happens in terms of how players like Trey Smith perform once the real lights come on. But I have no doubt about a guy like Joe Thuney, steady as they come. And I think Orlando Brown, athletic enough for a man of his size to probably adjust to what is a very different stylistic offense here in Kansas City as compared to what he's used to in Baltimore.
So with this offensive line being revamped, and when you see like a strong offensive line such as the Chiefs have, combined with the weapons available, what's your tendency to recommend people to go push all your chips into every single skill player with the Chiefs?
Yeah, so Travis Kelce is the first non-running back that comes off the board in basically every fantasy draft that I do. And he's a hard player to get your hands on because you got to have a high pick to the opportunity to play. It's been the most consistent fantasy football for the past 5 years. Patrick Mahomes will be the top drafted quarterback in basically every league that I'm in as well. No surprise there. The upside is as good as anybody else in the NFL. He and Josh Allen are sort of a tier on a points per game basis. Last season, both present the opportunity for, 50 touchdowns and 5,000, heck, 6,000 yards. Now they play 17 games. And then beyond that, Tyreek Hill, obviously, as well. Tyreek Hill is going in the top 20 picks of basically every draft that I play in. If you're looking at the top 3 wide receivers coming into this year, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs in some order. Usually Adams is going first, but those 3 kind of have a tier unto themselves relative to what is the deepest position in fantasy. So speaks to the ability there. And then we'll see, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a good player. There's no doubt. He had a pretty unique skill set coming out of LSU, but the Chiefs weren't that much worse for the wear without having him be a dominant player last year. He was a good player, but he wasn't a dominant player. It didn't really impact them that much. Maybe things are better this year behind that offensive line, but I have seen some good things from Jerick McKinnon. I think Darrell Williams will always just be one of those sort of lunch pail kind of running backs that the Chiefs are going to rely upon in key situations. It's not going to be a box score hero, but when the Chiefs need a blitz pickup or the Chiefs need a 3rd and 1, got to have a situation, he's going to be there. So I think the first 3, though, really the focus: Mahomes, Kelsey, and certainly Tyreek Hill as well.
And I noticed the question because Chiefs fans always joke about it, especially if it's an auction draft or a snake draft, however you do it. But at what point is too early to take Patrick Mahomes? Like as
I think
as
the
a
first
person,
2 rounds is too early for a quarterback. Only, and it has nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes. It just, and I always tell people you have to kind of think of it like
fans.
I know, but you got to think of it like real estate, right? If you had the option to buy a house and the house was available for whatever $100,000, but if you were told that you could wait and risk, let's say wait a month from now, but it would be the same exact house would be available for $80K, or a house that looks just like that house would be available for $79K. Would you do it? You probably would, right? Because it's not like if you don't draft Patrick Mahomes, there aren't good quarterbacks available, even if you're a huge Chiefs fan. But one thing I always remind people is that it's your fantasy team. Do as you see fit. You're not going to lose your draft or lose your league because you draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round. There are plenty of reasons to draft Patrick Mahomes early in your draft. There are also reasons to want to wait until at least the 3rd round. I tend to subscribe to those reasons, whether we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, the top quarterback, whether it's Josh Allen and you're a Bills fan, whether it's Aaron Rodgers and you're a Packers fan. Patience is a good thing at quarterback.
And then, so with the prevalence of like the weekly fantasy football and everything like that, how do you how do you gauge who you're going to get? Is it like defense? Is it weather? Like, is it away teams, home teams? Who's hurt? Who's not? Like, what's like that biggest X factor to you to say, ooh, yes, I like this person right now?
I always tell people that as a fantasy analyst, there's very little information that I have available to me that you don't have available to you. The difference is it's my job to take every bit of information that is available, either publicly or privately, and take it, process it, jumble it all into one ball, and then throw that ball out into the universe with an assigned score to it, right? So, hey, Patrick Mahomes is easy. You're going to start him every week that you have him. But let's say you're deciding between, Mecole Hardman is a flex option versus Kadarius Toney, the Giants' first-round pick. Maybe you're saying to yourself, all right, let's see. So Mecole Hardman, number 2 wide receiver potentially in this offense, has had 5 targets in 4 of his past 5 games, but playing against a bad defense, playing in a dome where there's no concerns about weather, fast track, things like that. Hey, Tyreek Hill's been a little bit, he's been overworked recently, so the Chiefs are going to be mindful of his snap count, whatever the circumstances are. You're taking all that information and then processing it out by telling people, all right, here's what I would do. Whereas some people, they see Mecole Hardman, and the only point of reference they have is the projections, which are an incredible resource that are done by ESPN, the great Mike Clay. But they don't know what the root of those projections is. Is it because, like, why 10 versus 12? Why 8 points versus 10 points? So it's basically taking as many factors as are available and trying to contextualize what they mean and how relevant they are or are not. Because sometimes you're sitting there and you're just like, wait, the guy posted an Instagram photo with, Patrick Mahomes posted an Instagram photo with Demarcus Robinson. It does not mean I need to start Demarcus Robinson, right? Like, it's cool that they're friends, but it doesn't guarantee he's going to have a touchdown this weekend.
I love the insight. You have to take all the information, and that is information that you have to take in to figure out what you want to put out there. And I love the fact that I love the temperament that you have in a position where it feels like everybody in the world thinks they're an expert at fantasy football, and you literally are the expert at fantasy football and have to tell people that. So I want to ask.
I feel like everybody is sort of an expert, but everybody is also sort of like, I get it. Like I don't know anybody out there that could truly be like year over year the guy in fantasy football, like the person in fantasy football. It's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah. All right, Field, I know you got to get going, so I want to ask you one more thing, and it's not necessarily Chiefs related, but it is NFL, and it's topical today because of the news coming out of Baltimore with Gus Edwards potentially having the serious injury, with J.K. Dobbins already being injured, already have another guy. So is this the Le'Veon Bell week 2 revenge game against the Kansas City Chiefs? Is he a guy? Because you and I hopped on this exact podcast when Le'Veon Bell joined the Chiefs, and we talked about like, hey, maybe he's going to be used. Maybe they can get something out of him. It did not work out that way. He said some stuff, and now he ends up in Baltimore, and it looks like he may be the guy going into a primetime matchup against the Chiefs in week 2. What's your fantasy advice?
I could be wrong, and I've been wrong in the past. Don't worry about that. I'll be wrong again in the future. It can't work there, where spacing should be your friend, as long as the defense is paying attention to you. If it can't work in Kansas City, I don't know where it's working, gentlemen. I just, he's made a ton of money. He's had a great career. He's accomplished way more in his life than I've accomplished in mine. But I don't think this is the year of Le'Veon Bell.
If it tells anybody anything about you, Phil, that may be the meanest thing I've ever heard you say about anyone.
That's just the truth. That's just
anybody
the truth.
ever.
That's the truth. That's all it is. You can't get mad at the truth.
That's right. Yes, no doubt.
And Field, again, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. Again, that is Field Yates.
Thank you guys.
Fantasy football, a good dude, and I am going to share that story of me walking around Torrey Pines, chatting with you on the phone long time ago. It's a good man. Again, Field, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I've got 2 minutes till my next commitment, and the last thing before the season begins. It is a day of, it's the start of the NFL season. That's what we do, right?
It is.
Yes, this is a beautiful day. I think everybody that is a football watching person, no matter what team you root for, woke up a little bit happier today, knowing that there's a game on and it counts, and that there's going to be fans, and it's just some semblance of norm. We need something to bring us all together right now, man, and that's definitely it.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. Let's enjoy the season.
All right, thanks, Field. We'll chat again soon. We appreciate all of your time. All right,
all righty, guys.
We'll let Field go, and we'll bring Tucker back in here because I know the next segment, fucking blind nil. It's just going to be a thing.
I knew it was going to be a thing since the moment you hated it from day one.
I can't hide it. You know what? I can't fake it. No, I can't fake any of this stuff. But again, we talked about it earlier. Tickets for Less, the new partner. Buy tickets, KCSN 21. It'll give you a discount on tickets to make sure you guys are taken care of. And they don't ever have any fees or any of that stuff. They're good people who take care of you. No BS with them. So get your tickets from Tickets for Less. And again, every Friday, we'll be posting on all of our social media channels the link to our game preview article that we are making free for everyone. And it's the kind of content you will get if you pay that $50 a year now subscription for our daily newsletters with all kinds of analysis. But we'll make sure to get that link in there for that.
Yep.
Now we're ready for Blind Nil. Nick, we're going to start with you. What is your segment? For anyone who's listening who doesn't know what this is, we each bring a topic. We don't know what everybody brought, and we spend 5-6 minutes discussing it. It could be anything regarding something loosely connected to week 1, Chiefs, Browns, something or other. And so we'll see what kind of connection Nick is going to make right here.
And all my Spades players out there know what the hell Blind Nil is, unlike these two gentlemen right here that I share the honor of the screen with. All right, my Blind Nil. And it's kind of a week 2, week 1 question. So if you look at Kansas City, they host Cleveland, and then next week at Baltimore. And then you look at Cleveland, they go to Kansas City, and then they host Houston. How much of an element, and I know as a former player, you're never looking ahead, but I mean, that matchup, I mean, this for the Chiefs, these are two matchups. And then if you're looking for Cleveland, it's Houston. You got Clowney, who was, been on that team before in the past. How much of a difference will that week 2 affect week 1? Even though players are focused on week 1, how much of a difference will that make? That's tough to compartmentalize.
It's the Duke Johnson revenge game. Come on. Is Duke Johnson still there? Is he still in Houston?
I don't even know.
I don't either. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference because, like you said, I think the guys compartmentalize their jobs and their roles so much that they don't think beyond the next meeting that they have because they don't want to go into that meeting, get called out and say the wrong stupid thing when you have expectations, you're going to be good. They were always so locked in. And I know we talk about it with the Chiefs and Andy Reid and the way that he runs things. And a lot of times it comes off like almost cliche when they talk about it with a microphone in their face. But even when you talk to these guys now, like go listen to Mike and Jeff talk about it, they were always prepared. They were always worried about making sure they were prepared for the next meeting so they didn't look bad. And then you have that kind of expectation every day to make sure you always know what's going on. You don't think too far ahead the way that fans do. And when it comes to Houston, like who knows if Deshaun Watson steps up and is going to play quarterback, it's a completely different team. So you don't know when he's going to get out on the field, if at ever. But my 2 cents. Tucker, what do you think?
I found that one-on-one podcast very interesting because there's a lot of insight there that you don't usually hear about what goes into a normal week and just how much film those guys watch on just like a daily basis and even a weekly basis. You're just like, holy cow, they know the tendencies of Mike DeVito was talking about when they line up with a back near him in I formation, what percent run it was going to be and what gap it was going to be in, because he would just watch all that film. They would know all that stuff. I thought that was absolutely wild. And that makes me kind of think, okay, in this Andy Reid system, this Andy Reid led team, he doesn't let you get so far ahead out in front of your skis, so to speak, and think about these other teams because you're so focused on this team. I think they're going to be really focused on kind of silencing some haters in this week 1 game. It's kind of the same path last week or last year, I should say, right? When the Texans were in town, like, oh, the Texans should be pretty good. This was a game where, the Texans blew a lead. This game should be interesting. And they came and bopped them. I mean, I think it's going to kind of be the same situation where the Browns could be pretty good. This could be a good team. This could be a good game. The Chiefs will come out and bop them just because they're so hyper-focused on it. Seems like this first week of the season. And again, the Lab guys mentioned it in their game preview. If you haven't listened to that, go to that KCSN podcast feed. You can listen to them preview the game there. And they just said, hey, people are counting out Andy Reid too much. He is good in week 1. He is good off of a bye. When you give him time to prepare, he is dangerous. So I don't think it's too big of it is 2 big matchups right in a row, but I think they will almost welcome that challenge. And as you mentioned, Cleveland's getting a matchup and a half in 2 games. So that Texans game is going to not be very good.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I just can't imagine a scenario in which an Andy Reid led Chiefs team comes out in week 1 and doesn't play well. Right. And I can't imagine I don't think there's a scenario if the Chiefs play well for them, Browns aren't going to beat them. I don't think there's maybe but 2 teams in the NFL that if the Chiefs play well are good enough if they play their best are still able to go beat them. Now, if the Chiefs don't play their best, Cleveland is one of those teams that could still jump up and bop them, as Tucker would say. But I just can't imagine with the offseason, the way that these guys are locked in, the way that they're thinking playing at home. I just can't imagine they come out and don't play well in this game. But if they do, and Cleveland comes out and wins this game, man, that week 2 game at Baltimore is going to mean a lot because you cannot, I talked about this on the radio with 101 The Fox with Slacker earlier today. You cannot go 0-2 to start in the AFC. This is not a cross-division NFC game. That is tiebreaker, like, bad. Like, that is not going to – you cannot make up going 0-2 without winning out, knowing that there's going to be some other teams in the AFC that make a run. And Cleveland being one of those teams, especially now with all the injury problems that Baltimore's having at running back, we're going to figure out a lot about what picking up a running back off the street means for an entire season because they are hurting right now. I was about to call my guy Sharkandrick and say, hey, man, are you still working out? Like, you better –
And I guess too,
give him a call.
I guess my question too was also part B. Will Andy Reid have to sort of use all his offensive firepower, allow for more schemes, or is he going to hold back? And will Spagnuolo hold back, knowing that the matchup is next week, right? Or another matchup next week? How much are we going to see? Like, what percentage, of the Chiefs' offense or defense will we see with those matchups?
That's a good question.
It's almost a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's almost, you don't know, like, is it like, okay, we're up by 21 in the third quarter, can we just we tighten the playbook, or shoot, are we down, or we have to open up the playbook and bring out some of those plays? So that'll be the curious factor.
Well, traditionally, Andy Reid's playbook is pretty open week one. He'll run a lot of things. And Max Ramsey asked this question earlier. I'll throw it up on the screen here about, do you think the 4 tight end sets will make an appearance in week one? I mean, it could if they have to, but I don't think if they don't have to, it won't be there. Andy Reid's good about holding things back, and he's also good about throwing things out there people haven't seen yet. I know there was some play going around. I think Oklahoma might have ran it on Saturday, and people are like, okay, Andy Reid's going to run this play later this season because he's got eyes everywhere looking at everything. But I think that it's going to be one of those as the game progresses. Okay, are the Chiefs in commanding fashion? Yep, you're going to see a lot of inside zone. You're going to see a lot of guard tackle trap. So it's just going to be one of those things.
Maybe we're going to see those 4 tight ends and they just line up to Myles Garrett's side and just try to knock him out of the game and just try to be physical with him rather than letting him pin his ear back. Maybe they use the 4 tight ends. I originally started shaking my head when you brought that up, thinking, whether it's Jody Fortson, one of those tight ends won't be active on game day. But if you're going to face a team in which you are going to run a 4 tight end package, it would be somebody that's got a guy like Myles Garrett, where you just put so many dudes over there that he just gets caught up in the noise and the traffic. And you say, you know what, we might lose, but it ain't going to be because that guy comes out and just wrecks the game.
I think, honestly, if I'm Andy Reid, I will sure as hell run a 4 tight end set, because guess what? Now you're making every team that plays you from week 2 on out, they're going to have to specialize a little part of practice just to combat that 4 look. They're going to say, look, we've got it out here. We're going to put this into the ether, and we're going to make you waste time during your practice work week to strategize, right? And that's more things you have to work on when you battle the Chiefs. It's like, crap, now we got to worry about Tyreek and CEH and this O-line, and then a damn 4 tight end set. It'd be smart.
I'm going to say this, and I don't want to insult Tucker because I know you coach high school football, but it's like those freaking teams that do the swinging gate crap on extra points, and you only do it to waste teams' time during practice. And it's like, don't do this crap. Don't do this stuff. Yes. This is stupid.
But you could do a lot with that tight end set. I mean, that could be a whole new thing. I mean, I think the Patriots had it down with Hernandez and Gronk with two really physical tight ends, and you get 4. Sheesh, as the kids say.
Oh my God. Let's go.
All right, Tucker, what do you got for Blind Note? We'll go to you next.
This might be – I always struggle with this, right? It seems like I ask questions that are yes or no questions. But I think that we could really expand on this because, Tyron Mathieu, not looking like he's likely going to play. Now, listen, it wouldn't surprise me if on game day all of a sudden Tyron Mathieu shows up with 2 negative tests. I'm like, here we go, I'm gonna play. Or they're just like BSing it the whole time, making Cleveland think that he's not gonna play. Do a little faux thing. But what do you think limits the Chiefs when they don't have Tyron Mathieu? I think that I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, okay. What do they do now? Who is going to be that safety? What can they do with that safety that's in there? So I want to know what your guys' thoughts with the defense without Tyron Mathieu and Willie Gay.
For me, real quick, I think simply you lose the ability to disguise what you're doing. I think you lose that trickiness, that ability that Tyron just freelances a lot of times. Like you see those plays of him taking all the different routes away and his instincts and the game, the chess match within the chess match and those kinds of things, where I think you lose that next level thinking on the defense, where he and Baker Mayfield are going back and forth, where Baker is having to actively worry about Tyron knowing exactly, one of the three things he's going to do based on this down and distance, where the splits are with the receivers. Like Tyron knows what's going on. And you put somebody else out there who's maybe not quite as versatile, playing all those snaps in the slot, lining up at safety, lining them up off the edge. You can do that with him because he's so versatile and can do so many different things. You take him off that field, whoever goes out there isn't quite as versatile, which means you can't quite disguise or get as creative. So I think you lose that side of it. And when you're going up against a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, that even though he's had some starts, still a younger quarterback, where a guy like Tyron Mathieu can get the best of him. Sure. I don't know if you're going to get that with a L'Jarius Sneed, a Rashad Fenton, Sorensen, whoever, different guys for the different roles that Mathieu does all of them for.
I think the main thing when you look at a guy like Mathieu, who is the unquestioned heart and soul of this Chiefs defense, he is a field general, right? So like to BJ's point, he's doing all the subtle nuances, and football isn't about knowing the playbook. Everybody knows the playbook. It's what you do with the play call, and then they give you this look, and then they shift a guy in so it changes up the routes, and you have to make those subtle variations on at the drop of a hat. You have to make those changes, quick reaction. And he's got presence and confidence, right? If you're a quarterback looking at that back four, if you're looking at your areas you're going to throw to, you go, oh shoot, there's Mathieu. He's going to be in the back of your mind. He's going to be in the back of your mind every throw. Like, okay, I'm not trying to get the ball near that guy, or I'm not trying to set my guys up that way. And just basic heart and fire of this defense. He's that motivator. If you've ever seen the clip of Mathieu during the Super Bowl, that guy was going crazy on the sidelines. Crazy, just getting everyone revved up, getting everyone hyped up. And that's what you need, man. You need those fire starters to get you hyped up in that fourth quarter, to give you that little bit of extra boost that'll help you win your one-on-one battle.
Yeah, I think you could see a lot more Juan Thornhill than we anticipated. That could also be something. I think Armani Watts is the other guy that could be it, who's been in the system for a while. So we were talking about that in the DMs for a little bit with Craig, and I think in the KCSN in DMs, and he mentioned Chris Lamons maybe. There's a bunch of different options you can go with. Rashad Fenton, I think, is an option that you immediately go with in the slot. Listen, I think that Rashad Fenton is a fine slot corner. I think that he does a fine job in the slot, but Tyron Mathieu also adds that slot ability that's just really good. And I think that once you have a guy like Fenton and Mathieu on the field at the same time, you can free up kind of Mathieu to be that rover type, right? He can do whatever he wants to do or what he sees fit. Now, Tyron Mathieu, will he play or not? I don't know. I think the vaccinated rule is 2 tests in 24 hours if you're a close contact. So it's going to be it'll be a quick turnaround at this point. So that's kind of what I think everyone's keeping their eye on. And obviously the offensive line's a big story, but I think that this is almost taking a little bit of pressure off the offensive line. But the storyline being, okay, will Tyron Mathieu play? Is this a 4D chess game by Tyron Mathieu saying, I'm going to get COVID so the offensive line has less pressure? I don't know.
That's the kind of guy he is.
I'd rather him get it now than later, but if he has to get it at all, but that's just those are the things, conversations you just don't want to have.
Right. Yeah.
But all right, let's go into the last segment for Blind Nil here as we wrap up this live edition, the first live edition of Outside the Trenches. Again, everybody who's listening, please make sure that you click that subscribe button in the corner if you're watching on YouTube, wherever you're at. Make sure you're following, subscribing, and please, if you're listening to this, the next day and not watching us live, and you're listening on Apple or Spotify, whatever it is, we'd really appreciate you going and leaving a review and letting us know what you think. We realize if we don't ask you to leave reviews, most people don't go write nice things on the internet. So if you like the content, you like what we're doing, please leave a review and let people know, because that stuff does matter. But my final Blind Nil question, and it'll be different perspectives for all of us because we're all coming at it from a different way. But I want to know your best and your worst week 1 memory when it comes to the Chiefs. And it could be recent, Tucker. It could be when you were a kid. Nick, it could be as a fan or as a player. I don't care what it is. And I will go first to give you guys a little bit of time, because my best week 1 memory was Patrick Mahomes' first year as a starter. Like that touchdown he threw to Anthony Sherman. Like the Tyreek Hill one got everybody started. But when he dropped that dime on that like seam route to Anthony Sherman, like then you knew like, holy cow, this thing is really legit. And I'll never forget that being out there in Carson, California at the soccer stadium, watching the Chargers play a home game for the Chiefs. And then my worst memory, I was talking to Mike DeVito about it earlier today on 21 Questions, was 2014. I had just been hired by the Chiefs. Week 1, we get smoked by the Titans, and Derek Johnson and Mike DeVito both leave within like 2 minutes with season-ending Achilles injuries. And I was seriously contemplating whether I was going to get fired because I was bad luck, because 2 of the players on a season they thought they were going to be pretty good were lost for the season right off the bat. But that's what I got. Nick, what is we'll start with your best week 1 memory ever.
I would have to say best would be definitely the was San Francisco. Was that Mahomes' first start?
No, that was
like a week 3,
third.
Right?
I think it was his 3rd or 4th start. Yeah.
Okay, then I can't say that one. Then I would say would be best and worst. I'd have to say would be last year. Last year I got the opportunity to go. It was Houston, right? Was that last year? Because that feels like 10 years ago, by the way. And I normally don't like going to games just because I like to watch it at my house. I like to be in my own little space. I like to drink my bourbon and take my notes. And I wanted to go. Like a buddy of mine asked me on Saturday, he was like, "Hey, I got tickets. You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And it was just interesting to see the protocols, like all the protocols that were in place for COVID and for the games and how they blocked off stadiums. So it almost felt eerie. Like they had, sections blocked off. You couldn't cross lines. So that would be like a best, almost like a bad memory. What was that and everything we had to do? And then fast forward to this week 1, we're going to.
I think we lost Nick Tucker. Nick,
I think so.
Tucker, do I have you?
Yeah.
All right. Am I back now?
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
All right, cool. All right. So
you frozen. If anybody wants to know what just happened, go watch the YouTube. We're about 45 minutes in because Nick paused at the best moment. So that was great. We're not editing that out. That was great.
Nope.
Yeah. So and then I think it was just one of the signs of the times that we're trying to get through things and this will be the best one is that the vaccination's out. However you want to take that. I don't really give a shit how you feel about that if you're listening to this. And it's just going to be a step to normalcy. And it's like one of those things when I was in New Orleans and we won the Super Bowl and it helped the people of New Orleans get over that hump of Katrina. Yeah. I'm hoping this NFL season will help us sort of come together with our various sports tribes and kind of get back to not what it was, but just have something else to focus on. Something to distract us a little bit and to bring us fun and bring joy into our lives through sports entertainment.
Yeah, I like that. I think that I can't think of any worse week 1 memories. A good week 1 memory that I think this was week 1. You might have to correct me, but the Alex Smith overtime touchdown run against the Chargers, that was week 1, I believe. That was an all-time moment. I think just the picture that they got of Alex Smith after just yelling, all-time picture in Chiefs history. That was a moment that stuck out to me. Last year's week 1 was a good memory for me because that was my first game covering the NFL as a reporter with Sports Illustrated. So that was a good memory for me. I can't really remember any bad memories though, and I guess that's a good thing. I've had
so young
experiences. I am. I really
hasn't been jaded yet by the world.
Youngins don't know the struggle.
I'm not a huge Chiefs historian either. So I don't know all the records in the history. Well, not all of the history. I know some of the history, but yeah, those are the only 2 that really come to my mind.
All right. That's not bad. That's not bad for this edition of Blind Nil. And guys, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but we're going to wrap up this show. And we talk about like people coming together. And I know the anniversary of September 11th is coming up. And I got to watching and I saw Steven St. John put it out on social media. I saw a few people talk about the documentary called Turning Point on Netflix. Started watching it late last night. You don't realize that people at a certain age, and maybe this is going to sound really naive, and I apologize, it comes across that way, but it's almost like you understand how people of a different generation feel about some of the marquee events that happened at different places around the country, whatever it's Vietnam or World War, like whatever the wars are. There's certain things that are just during a very important time in your lives. And like, I was, a freshman in college during 9/11. And so when I was watching that documentary, like it physically like affected me in a way that like shook me, because I didn't realize how like fundamental that was to all of us that are around that age, that remember like watching it happen live and like going to class and being in that environment, like just crazy. But the one thing I'll say, and sorry to sound preachy, but the one thing that stood out to me more than anything, besides needing the reminder about what Flight 93 was and all of that, is that 403 first responders passed away, a majority of being firefighters. That it's crazy we live in a country, and it's humbling that we live in a country where 403 people with the drop of a hat ran towards danger. And we'd all like to say that we'd react that way in that moment, but those people literally worked to put themselves in those situations and didn't blink in a time, the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of the world with first responders. Crazy to think about, and it's humbling when you get the reminder. So anyway, if you're listening and it sounds interesting at all, it's a phenomenal start to the documentary. I haven't finished it yet. Not a political thing. It doesn't really go down that route in a way that it stands out to me as going to be divisive in that way. So if you're immediately triggered, don't worry about it in that regard. But it is humbling to watch.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. My girlfriend, actually, Tara, just watched it and recommended it to me. I guess it divulges a lot into all angles of it, from the Afghanistan side to the FBI to the CIA to the first responders to the White House. Everything. It's just a bunch of perspectives into one. And coming from someone who was 3 years old at the time, like I do remember seeing it on TV, but I was a small child, so I mean I don't remember a whole lot of it. So getting things like this from the Gen Z perspective is good.
Yep. So anyway, we appreciate everybody for listening to this episode of Outside the Trenches. Again, we will be live every Thursday moving forward at 6:30. And again, don't forget, head over to kcsn.substack.com tomorrow, or check our social media channels. You'll see the game preview, mega article, mega breakdown presented by our good friends, our new good friends at Tickets for Less, and you'll get that discount code KCSN21 inside of there. And obviously, thanks to Jack Stack Barbecue for everything they do in making not just Outside the Trenches possible, but all of KC Sports Network, if you know the history of what we're doing. Again, appreciate everybody for listening. If you love us, go tell everybody on social media. If you don't love us, just don't tell anybody anything. Until then, we'll see you guys next week, unless we're going to see you Sunday at the Bullpen and Bar and Grill in Overland Park for the post-game show. Come hang out. Tucker will be there, and that's reason enough to come hang out. We'll see you, Chiefs Kingdom.